So let's move on to another sense organ, which is the ear, right? When we talk about the ear, each one of us has got ears. So what do we need to appreciate about the ear? Number one, firstly, just like the eye, this one is a sense organ, but this one is responsible for detection of sound. Remember, for the eye, we said it is responsible for detection of light. For this one, it is responsible for detection of sound. So the ear is divided into the following regions. Number one, we have the outer region, or the external ear. So this external ear is filled up with a cavity of the pinna or the earlobe and the external auditory meters. So all these are what makes up the outer ear or the external ear. Then we move on to the middle ear. So the middle ear usually has an air-filled cavity made up of the tympanum or the eardrum. So this eardrum is also known as the tympanum. So apart from the eardrum, it also contains the ear ossicles and the eustachian tube. And then we finally have the inner ear as the last region. So this inner ear is the one that is containing a fluid-filled cavity, which is made up of the cochlea, the secular canals, and the vestibules or the vestibular apparatus. So all those are the parts. So coming to our ear, these are the parts. So we said we have our pinna there, which is known as our earlobe, and all this is making up the outer ear. The pinna, apart from the pinna, we also have the external auditory canal. All this is making up the outer ear. Then finally we come to this region which is being demarcated here. So this region which is being demarcated here is containing, number one, the tympanum or the eardrum. We have the hammer marias and the incus, the hammer marias and also the incus. All these two are also the parts which are making up our middle ear. And then we finally come to our which is our inner ear. So for our inner ear, I even forgot the eustachian tube. This one is also falling under the middle ear. Then finally we come to the inner ear. Under the inner ear, we have the semicircular canals, we have the ampulla, you have the utilicus, we have the auditory nerve, we have the cochlea, then we have our oval window or the round window. All this is falling in the inner ear. So there is our ear. This part is our pinna. Then finally we have the external auditory meters. Apart from the external auditory meters, we are able to come to the tympanic membrane, which is known as our eardrum. And then finally we come to these three, the hammer malleus, the incus anvul, and the stair apse, which are also known as the steps. Apart from that, we move on to the semicircular canals, the vestibular nerve, the facial nerve, and I hope that was the facial nerve, yeah, and then the cochlear nerve, and also the cochlea, which is here, and finally the internal auditory meters and the eustachian tube. All these are the parts of the ear. Now let's talk about the functions of all these parts of the ear that we have mentioned. So number one, we have the pinna, which we are able to appreciate here and here. So the pinna is responsible for collecting sound waves and passes them to the external auditory canal. So there is our external auditory canal. So this one, the pinna collects the sound waves and transports them or takes them to the external auditory canal. And in the external auditory canal, which is also known as the ear canal, it is going to carry the sound waves from the pinna to the tympanum. So this tympanum is our eardrum, right? So the external auditory canal also helps to produce wax to keep the eardrum supple and trap particles that enter the ear. Apart from that, the external auditory canal contains hairs that trap particles entering the ear. So that is how important this one is. Then finally we move on to the eardrum. So this is how our sound is moving from the pinna, which collects, it takes it to the external auditory canal or the ear canal, which is then going to take the sound to the eardrum. So what happens in the eardrum? So this eardrum, also known as the tympanum, this is the one that's responsible for vibrating. All right, so when the sound waves hit this eardrum, what is going to happen is that it's going to vibrate, and it is going to be able to produce some sound waves. Great. So the eardrum is going to simply vibrate when sound hits it, and then it's going to transmit that sound to the ossicles. We have three major ear ossicles. So when we talk about the ossicles, these ossicles are the Alright, so once the sound moves from the eardrum, it is then going to be taken to the ossicles. And these ossicles has got three major bones that are found in the middle ear and are responsible for, number one, transmitting sounds from the eardrum to the oval window, and also amplifying sounds by 20 times. So all this is happening in the ear ossicles. So we said these ear ossicles have three bones, and the bones that we have here, we have the ones that makes up or that come out after the eardrum. That one is what we call the hammer or the malleus. That is the name of this first bone, which comes immediately after the eardrum. Then the next one is the incus. So this incus is also known as the anvil. And then the last one is the steps or the stair up. And then all these are responsible for transmitting sound, all right, and also amplifying the sound 20 times. It is done by these three bones: the hammer malleus, the incus anvil, and the stair ups, also known as the steps. Then we move on to the eustachian tube. So this eustachian tube is the one that connects the middle ear to the back of the pharynx. So it opens during swallowing and yawning in order to equalize pressure between the middle ear and the atmosphere. This is going to prevent the eardrum from bursting when so much atmospheric pressure changes drastically. So this can be during an airplane flight or deep sea diving. All that is being regulated by the eustachian tube. Then we finally move on to the oval window. So when we talk about then finally we can come to the oval window, which is known as the fenestra ovalis. So this one is going to pick up the vibrations from the steps, which we said are the stair ups, and is going to transmit them to the perilymph in the inner ear. And then we have the round window. The round window is going to help to relieve the pressure that builds up in the perilymph during vibrations of the oval window. So it moves outwards as the oval window moves inwards, and it moves inwards when the round window moves outwards. Now we are hearing a lot of windows here. Okay, let's move on to the vestibules. So these vestibules are also known as the vestibular apparatus. This is made up of the circulars, and it's also made up of the ureticas, and it's also made up of the ampullae or the ampulla, and then the utricle, and then the circle. Yes, and then finally we have the semicircular canals. All right, then the sulcus links the rest of the vestibules to the cochlea. Then the ureticus contains receptors that are sensitive to gravity and body posture. So the semicircular canals are responsible for balancing the body during rotational movements of the head. All right, and then finally we come to this part, which is our cochlea. So the cochlea is usually coiled structure, and it detects sound intensity and frequency and transduces sound to generate nerve impulses that can be carried to the brain by the auditory nerve. Remember, the one that carries from the eye to the brain, it's the optic. Then the one that carries from the ear to the brain is the auditory. Then deafness. Deafness is simply a disorder which can be caused by a diminished cause of you not listening and you not being able to hear what is being said in the surroundings. So all this is going to be due to the overproduction of wax, and then exposure to loud sounds, inserting of hard and sharp objects into the ears, and then also infection. So how can we take care of our ears? By cleaning them regularly, avoiding exposure to loud sounds, and then also treat all infections of the ear and the throat. So this marks the end. Bye bye.